Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. So, if you're looking for the ultimate, absolutely zero fluff replacement for a dry, boring textbook, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're breaking down the absolute fundamentals of project management. My goal? To keep you completely focused, completely entertained, and basically do all the heavy lifting for you so you can master this material effortlessly.
I mean, seriously, are you ready to master project management without even opening your textbook? Because by just watching this explainer, you're going to lock in all the work. We're taking complex management theories and boiling them down into simple, highly visual takeaways using some great diagrams that are going to instantly stick in your memory. Let's make learning this stuff efficient, accessible, and, dare I say, actually fun.
Okay, let's just quickly look at our roadmap for today. First, we'll answer, what exactly is a project? Then, we'll look at the anatomy of a project. Third, we're pitting projects against everyday processes. Fourth, we'll cover Waterfall and Agile methodologies. And finally, we'll zoom out to understand the big picture. All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, what exactly is a project? The gold standard definition. To really demystify this whole industry, we absolutely have to start with the PMI. That's the Project Management Institute. They give us the absolute gold standard definition in their PMBOK guide. Here it is. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Now, I know that sounds incredibly simple, right? But honestly, every single word in that sentence is doing some serious heavy lifting. A project isn't just a random task. It's a very structured piece of work with strict boundaries. In fact, if you need to memorize just one thing to get this definition down perfectly for an exam, it's these 5 exact keywords: temporary, unique, goal or objective, time-bound, and limited resources. Let's break those down really quickly. Temporary just means it has a defined start and finish. It absolutely does not go on forever. Unique means the final outcome is never exactly the same as something you've done before, even if it's kind of similar. It has to have a clear goal you're aiming for. It's time-bound, meaning there's a strict, looming deadline. And finally, it uses limited resources. You've only got a certain amount of cash, people, and hours to actually pull it off. Lock those 5 keywords into your brain right now.
Moving right along to Section 2, the anatomy of a project. We'll be looking at characteristics and constraints.
Okay, so now that we've got the abstract textbook definition out of the way, let's look at the actual physical anatomy of what makes a project tick in the real world. What are the core characteristics that project managers wrestle with literally every single day? Well, as we just said, they have defined start and end dates, but crucially, they also have a clear sponsor or customer focus, meaning somebody is footing the bill and expecting a very specific result. They also require cross-functional collaboration. You're not just sitting in a silo, you're pulling IT, marketing, finance, and engineering into one unified team. Then there's this concept called progressive elaboration. Fancy term, but it basically just means your plans develop in stages. You adjust as you learn more. And finally, projects have a change-driven nature. They exist to literally introduce change, whether that's a cool new innovation, a process improvement, or totally transforming a business.
Now, what's really interesting here, and absolutely crucial to grasp, is the iron triangle. Some people call it the triple constraint. This maps out the 3 massive forces pulling at any project: time, cost, and scope. I want you to picture this like a literal physical triangle. Let's say your sponsor suddenly slashes your budget, so you're pulling on that cost corner. Well, the shape of the whole triangle has to morph, right? You inevitably have to either increase your time to find cheaper ways of doing things, or you have to reduce your scope, meaning you just deliver fewer features. You want a bigger scope? Guess what? It's going to cost more or take way more time. You literally cannot change one of these without impacting the other 2. It's basically the golden rule of project management.
Up next, Section 3, projects versus everyday processes, the ultimate showdown.
To truly understand what a project is, it helps to look at what it isn't. So let's pit them against each other. Over on the left, we have projects. Like we said, they're temporary, they create unique outcomes, they have a single objective, they exist to challenge the status quo, and honestly, they carry a pretty high degree of uncertainty and risk. But on the right, we have processes, your everyday operational procedures. These are ongoing, they crank out repetitive, identical outcomes, they're designed to maintain the status quo, and you generally have really high certainty about what they'll cost and how long they'll take. Simply put, projects build the engine and create the change, while processes are the repetitive daily mechanisms that keep that engine running smoothly.
Let's anchor this with some real-world examples, just to make sure it's super clear. Think about a bank.
If you're launching a brand new mobile banking app, that is a massive one-time project. But processing the daily customer transactions inside that app, that's an ongoing process. Organizing a university graduation ceremony, huge project. Managing the student academic records year-round, routine process. Or let's say you're building a solar-powered community center. That's a highly unique project with a clear end date, but doing the monthly maintenance on that building once the doors are open, that's an operational process. See the difference there? Projects create your new reality, and processes maintain it.
Moving to Section 4, Waterfall and Agile methodologies. These are the rules of the game. All right, so we know what projects are, but how do we actually run them? Well, we use methodologies, basically rule books to manage all the chaos. Let's look at the two big ones. First up is the traditional waterfall method. Just like a real, physical waterfall, the flow of work only goes in one direction, downwards. It relies on very logical, sequential phases. You absolutely must finish Phase 1 before you even think about starting Phase 2. The objectives are locked in and highly defined. This is perfect for things like construction. I mean, you literally cannot build the roof of a hospital before you pour the concrete foundation, right? On the flip side, we have Agile. Agile takes the whole project and breaks it into short bursts. These are called iterations or sprints, usually lasting maybe 1 to 4 weeks. There's constant planning, non-stop feedback from the customer, and it is incredibly adaptable. This is your ultimate rulebook for things like software development or building a video game, where the customer's mind changes constantly and you need to be able to easily rewrite code. So Waterfall is strict and linear, Agile is flexible and cyclical. And finally, Section 5, Understanding the Big Picture, Programs and Portfolios. Here's the thing about massive organizations. Individual projects almost never happen in total isolation. You really need to zoom out and look at the entire chessboard to understand how a business is actually hitting its big strategic goals. So, let's step up the hierarchy. At the very base, step 1 is the project. That's the single, temporary endeavor we've been focused on. But step up to step 2 and you hit a program. A program is essentially a group of related projects that are managed together to hit a common goal. For example, let's say a cosmetics company is launching a massive new organic product line. That entire launch is the program. The individual projects inside it would be things like the chemical research, the marketing campaign, and designing the physical in-store displays. And then finally, step 3, the absolute highest level, the portfolio. This is the giant umbrella collection of all the programs, all the projects, and even the ongoing operations within a company. The portfolio's one and only job is making sure everything being worked on perfectly aligns with the overarching strategic goals of the entire business. So it goes project to program to portfolio. So what does this all mean? Why does any of this actually matter to you, and why is project management just booming as a career right now? Well, first off, it drives the actual execution of business strategy. Big ideas are cheap, but project managers are the ones who actually get them built. Second, it adapts to shortening product life cycles. Think about it. An old landline telephone design sat on a desk unchanged for decades, but today, a smartphone's life cycle is barely 18 to 24 months. Businesses have to move faster, which means they desperately need structured change management. Third, it delivers way better customer focus, so companies can quickly personalize what they're offering. And finally, because of all this chaos and speed, it offers massive career advancement opportunities. Certified project managers are the rare people who can navigate that chaos and deliver immense, tangible value.
Let's tie this whole thing back to the beginning with a final, comprehensive summary to really lock it in. A project is a temporary, unique, goal-driven activity with a defined start and end, using limited resources to deliver a specific outcome or change for a client or stakeholder. And there you have it. You now have the ultimate cheat sheet totally locked into your memory. We went through the definition, we wrestled with the iron triangle, we put projects head-to-head with processes, we contrasted Agile and Waterfall, and we zoomed out to the big picture of portfolios. You are fully equipped. So the next time you face a massive undertaking, whether at work or in life, ask yourself, are you just going to settle for maintaining a routine process, or are you ready to step up and lead a game-changing project? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.